Aristotle's told us that happiness is a sort of special state of being. It's one that applies only to mature human adults, and it's really important because happiness tends to stick around, that we get these mature adults up to a point where they're quite happy quite fast. Because if they fall into the state of unhappiness or misery, they're probably going to be stuck there. How do we do that? We do it based on activities. How you act, what you do in life determines how happy you are, in Aristotle's sense. So, remember he's writing to politicians and legislators, we need to figure out what sorts of acts we ought to encourage. Maybe more importantly, we need to figure out what sorts of acts we ought to ban. And these are going to be the sorts of acts that lead people to misery. So here's our task coming up. Well, we need to figure out how to talk again about excellence, because excellence is what defines the activities that make us happy. So activities that make us happy are the ones that make us excellent. And you can see how the happiness and the excellence are coming together here more and more. So what kind of excellence are we talking about? Well, there are a few possibilities, and they're based on what Aristotle sees as three parts of the soul, or sort of the basic essence of humans. Obviously, this is not the Christian sense of soul, or really any other religious sense of soul. He just thinks that here's what sort of your non-physical essence is like. There are three parts to it. The first part is what he calls vegetative. You can see the root word vegetable in here. It's plant-like. It's the part that helps you do simple things like eat, breathe, and reproduce. Just sort of the really basic bodily functions. The second part is the appetitive. You can see the word appetite in there. It's animal-like. So it gives you the urge to fight, to have sex, to move around, to go find really delicious things, stuff like that. And he's going to say it's neither of these parts. The vegetative part, how would you even make that excellent, right? You're going to be a really good breather. No, this is clearly not the case. And the appetitive, we tend to sort of need to fight to become really excellent, virtuous people, right? You need to tamp down your urge to just fight things and have sex and run around all day. And you do that using what he calls the rational part. This is the human element. It's unique to humans, right? So plants have a vegetative part, animals have a vegetative part and an appetitive part. Humans have all three. We have the vegetative part, the appetitive part, and the rational part. And so this is the part of the soul that lets us do things like think, learn, make judgments, experience things. This is the really important part. The rational part is what excellence applies to. And so when we're looking for excellent activities, we need to find things that stimulate or help to grow the rational part of the soul. Well, there are two kinds of excellence. Aristotle loves his distinctions, as you can tell. There's rational excellence, which is what we just talked about. And there's what he's going to call moral excellence, which is sort of doing the right thing, acting ethically. Aristotle wants to show us that these are the same thing as well. This is a very Platonic notion, right, and Socrates as well. If you have good knowledge, if you have a well-developed rational capacity, you can't help but do the right thing. So, remember again, why we're doing this in the first place, we want to help out legislators. So we need to figure out what sort of laws they should make to encourage excellent acts and to prevent acts that are disruptive of human excellence. Well, how should we do things? This is the question we need to answer. The legislators need to figure out what sorts of acts we should do and what ones we shouldn't do, so we need to answer this question, obviously. Well, there are two ways, Aristotle thinks, to harm excellence. There are two ways to be really bad. The first of them is excess. That's having too much of a good thing. Too much of a good thing, which makes it a bad thing. Or there's defect, which is too little of a good thing, and that's just bad, plain and simple. So an example he gives to make this clear is courage. If you have too much courage, it makes you stupid or rash. You're too brave, you just sort of rush into situations stupidly. Too little courage and you're a coward, you're a wimp. The just right amount, the sort of Goldilocks amount, is actual courage. He's also going to make a big deal out of pleasure and pain. He thinks that these are really, really important in the human psyche, and I think that's obviously true. The basics of it are we like pleasure, duh, and we hate pain, duh. It's important to him, then, that we find the right sorts of things pleasurable and painful. The goal of a legislator should be not just to make certain things legal or illegal, but to help us figure out what sort of things, even if they are legal, that we still ought to do or ought not to do. So he wants us to help us as the legislators, as the sort of imagined audience, to help make good things seem good and bad things seem bad. So if we get a lot of pleasure out of exercise and out of going to class and out of doing good deeds, awesome. And then we should find, not necessarily painful, but at least unpleasant bad things like slacking off or hurting other people, robbing people, etc. That'll help us be motivated in the right sorts of ways. So in the next video, we will talk about how he thinks he can accomplish this task.